Welcome in, everybody. I'm Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune, joined by my friend Herb Howard of the Bigs. The new league year has kicked in. I must tell our audience that things are fluid. We are recording this around 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Things may happen before everyone watches this. But, man, it's been a wild, wild few weeks. It's been a wild, wild few days. And now today, Herb, I'm going to not bury the lead, and I'm going to let people know that barring some unforeseen twist, Aaron Rodgers' days as a Green Bay Packers quarterback are over. He is likely headed to New York. He's certainly not playing in Green Bay again, based on what he told the Pat McAfee show this afternoon. That might be the biggest development of the 2023 offseason for the Bears. Don't you agree?
No doubt about it. I mean, to get Aaron Rodgers out of your division and not have him up in Green Bay is a huge, huge development for the Packers. I mean, for the Bears, I'm sorry. It's a huge development for the Packers, obviously.
For everybody.
It may be a bigger development for the Bears. In all seriousness, though, I think that, having the opportunity to watch Aaron Rodgers up close throughout his career and have the Bears play him twice a year and just see his greatness on display over and over and over again, it's been an absolute pleasure to watch. I think, for me, he is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. We talk about GOAT and all that. We'll give the GOAT conversation to Tom Brady. You can't argue with his results. But just in terms of who plays the position best in terms of the skill set, the throws that he's able to make, the off-time and off-target, off-schedule type of plays he's able to make, the different arm angles, the way he manipulates the pocket, Aaron Rodgers is as good as I've ever seen play that position. And so it's always been a pleasure to watch him play. Good for the Bears that he's going to play somewhere else.
I always tell people the story in 2020 when we were back in the COVID era and we were doing all our press conferences over Zoom. I went to the Packers post game after they hammered the Bears at Lambeau Field, and I asked them a really basic, short question about a touchdown pass he had to Davante Adams. And he gave like a 2.5-minute response detailing everything that he saw before the snap, everything he saw as the play was going on, how his brain was processing things based on what he saw before the snap, and how the ball wound up in Davante Adams' hands in the end zone. I remember just pushing away from my computer and being like, man, I have never heard a Bears quarterback talk in that level of detail. And then you go back and compare it to the replay, and you're like, the recall is spot on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this guy was just doing surgery, and he was doing it at such a high level that it was hard to keep up. But forget all the admiration. This thing today, like this whole look, I ran some numbers, Herb, and Aaron Rodgers finishes his time as the Green Bay Packers quarterback, starting 30 games against the Bears. He beat them 25 times. He beat 5 Bears head coaches. He beat 7 Bears defensive coordinators. I didn't even get to count up yet the number of other starting quarterbacks that the Bears used that got beat by Aaron Rodgers.
You're saying how many quarterbacks did he beat? 17?
Right. I mean, it's probably up there in those 25 games, to be honest with you. And so you just see the decade and a half of torture that he put on the Bears. And so when I put on Twitter on Wednesday afternoon the gif of the Wicked Witch of the West being trapped under the house, it's time for the Munchkins to come out and sing Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead.
It is 100% time. He's carved the Bears up. I mean, it was every time the Bears were doing good and you're like, he's going to get the ball back and he's going to do it to him again. And he invariably did it to him every single time, no matter how unlikely it seemed, no matter what needed to happen, a busted coverage here, somebody gets behind somebody there, just some way, somehow, he always found a way to stick it to the Bears throughout his career. And so certainly happy to see him leave. I actually went to the Green Bay Packers post-game press conference this year when they came to Soldier Field. I went to that press conference and I asked him about, the possibility of this being his last time playing in this rivalry as a Green Bay Packer. And he was very, very respectful in terms of relationship with the fans. And he said, it's never been a whole lot of love there, but I've always had a ton of respect for the Chicago Bears fans. I've always enjoyed playing here. And so I think that it was a healthy respect, even if I don't know that you can call it a rivalry. I mean, you just lay out the stats. You're talking about 25 out of 30. That's not a rivalry, right? But it was certainly always fun. And everybody was always up for it. And so salute to the career that Aaron Rodgers had here. And hopefully they don't do it again. I mean, you felt this way when Brett Favre left, right? You felt this way like finally, right?
No. I get it, and maybe I'm getting out over my skis, but I tell people that the law of averages eventually catches up with you. Like the folks in Indianapolis can tell you after Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, like they've been struggling to address it. You see what happens in New England when Brady leaves. Like the law of averages catches up with you. So I see no way that Jordan Love continues at the level. Like he may still be a good quarterback, but at the level
he can't be another Hall of Famer, right? Like
no, right. And so the Bears should be. We've had parties in this town for the last 6 months over things that are so minor. This is major. Like, this
This is
deserves
major.
a parade down Michigan Avenue to not understand that Aaron Rodgers is no longer here. I don't know how much of the Pat McAfee show you watched. I mean, that was a little bit of a tough buckle in there because Aaron is trying to tell people that he's got no hard feelings and no resentment. And then he just lays out 150 reasons why he has hard feelings and he's resentful of the Packers and why he's going to continue playing. I mean, I've always said this, like the NFL increasingly has become theatrical. And if you like theater, Aaron Rodgers is a character, right? Like he's a character
center
that you want in the league.
Yeah.
He's out of the division now. He's New York's problem. I will be fascinated to watch what happens there from afar. I'll be fascinated to watch how many of his friends he brings to New York, whether it's Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard and Mercedes Lewis and all the other guys.
His wish list.
Yeah, it's a wish list. He's got a wish list. So that's New York's problem now.
Yeah.
It's not Chicago's problem any longer. And maybe it's Miami's and Buffalo's and New England's problem for a little while, but certainly the Bears should break open a bottle of champagne somewhere at Hallis Hall, privately toast the moment, and move forward.
I'll be interested to see, that dynamic between Aaron Rodgers and that New York media market. It's different. It's not Green Bay. I know Green Bay as a team has its own, kind of cachet and all that. But in terms of the media market itself, he's able to kind of reign above that thing and do what he wants. I don't know if that's going to fly so much with the Jets, especially if they are not winning out of the gate. And so I'll be interested to see, how long that honeymoon lasts and then what happens when things kind of go south, because he's used to, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I walk in here, I say what I want. And New York, no disrespect to the Green Bay market, but it's different. Everybody knows that. And so I'll be interested to see how that plays out over the course of a whole season.
I'm with you, because he's not a guy that handles criticism really well all the time. And so it's going to be fascinating to see what happens when that first tsunami of criticism comes his way. All right, enough about the Packers, enough about Aaron Rodgers. The Bears have been busy restocking their roster in ways that are somewhat valuable. In other ways, you're left scratching your head. And so as we sit here on Wednesday afternoon, you and I talked last week about the DJ Moore trade and the things that the Bears were able to put together to add that piece to their puzzle. Since then, the most notable additions to the roster have been TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, a pair of linebackers, Nate Davis, a guard from the Titans, DeMarcus Walker, probably a situational pass rusher, also from the Titans, and Travis Homer, probably a depth piece and a special teams contributor to your backfield. Your initial review of the early waves, understanding again that things are fluid and that this roster won't be fully complete until May.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get a clearer picture for exactly who Ryan Poles is and how he's going to be as a GM. And I think last year he came in and he talked about, not wanting to overspend and being disciplined and not making these big splashes, but the opportunity wasn't there. This year, the opportunity was there for you to come out here and do some of these things. And the expectation was that you were going to hit it big early on day one, a defensive tackle, offensive tackle, something like that. And you just didn't see it. It came across the Bears have made the first sign. It's like, oh, who was it? It's TJ Edwards. Like, okay, all right. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think most people have found it a little bit underwhelming, but I think there are some key pieces. You have to overhaul that linebacker room for sure. I think getting Tremaine Edmonds, that dude is an elite player. And I think to put him in the middle of the defense is a huge thing. I'm interested to see what you think about his contract in comparison to what they were unwilling to do with Roquan Smith, considering the two players that they are.
Oh, I have a handful of thoughts on that. And the first one is the one that's like really gotten me stuck this week is that there's a lot of people arguing that, they were able to get, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, for just a little bit more than they would have had to pay Roquan Smith. Well, nothing said that if they paid Roquan Smith, they couldn't have also gone out and signed TJ Edwards. Right. Like there's been this sentiment that Roquan would have prohibited from that. That's why you have $90+ million in salary cap space. So you have flexibility and opportunity. So the TJ Edwards signing does nothing for me in terms of the basically the flip-flopping of Roquan Smith for Tremaine Edmonds. I have the same questions about Tremaine Edmonds that I had about Roquan Smith. You've got a head coach who consistently emphasizes ball production. Well, Tremaine Edmonds hasn't taken the ball away or sacked the quarterback at a level that impresses anyone in the league. Now, look, he's got good range. He's very fast. He can run. He's got the length. He's got the traits. He's got the traits. Like we've heard Matt talk about length, big, fast.
Sure.
That's what they want. So he fits that profile. But I just feel like, okay, fine. You've got a guy that's a 2-time Pro Bowler, but all you did was replace one of the main blue chip players you had when you got here, right? So
No
you really
doubt.
haven't made any advancements forward. You're just replacing a hole that you got there. And I get it. Like the Roquan trade nets them a second round pick that they now get to use. We'll see what they do with that. And in 3 years from now, we'll see whether that was actually valuable or it was just a thing. Again, remember, you got that pick back, but you also traded a higher pick for Chase Claypool. So
Chase
all this stuff
Claypool,
comes out
right?
in a big picture puzzle. I don't know. I'm struggling with this because Herb, you were there in January when Ryan Poles talked about his priorities, and he said, we're looking at premium positions. We're looking at pass rushers, corners, and offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Where are they? Where are they? Now, look, you've got the value waves of free agency ahead. You've got the draft ahead, but you better start getting some difference makers at the positions that you told everyone were your premium positions.
Yeah, because they aren't there. We talk about these hot spots, right? You talk about the three technique. You talk about your tackle, and you haven't made those additions to this roster yet. And that front, the defensive front, the front line, still needs to be overhauled. You need a huge influx of talent at that position, and so you don't have that yet. And you talked about last year with Roquan Smith, and okay, maybe they just don't value the position. Maybe they don't value it that way at that level. And that if that's your thing, no problem. But then you come back a few months later and you throw money at it similar to what you would have done there. And so it's a little bit of a mixed signal there. But either way, they've got to continue to build this roster. They still need a lot of starters on both sides of the football, mostly up front. And I don't know where they're going to go about getting it now. You still got Orlando Brown Jr. and everything is going on with him, and whether that's going to work out. Is he going to be willing to play right tackle? You're hearing reports that he may have to just take a 1-year deal, but I think even if he takes a 1-year deal, he's probably going to want that 1-year deal on the left side. Yeah. So I don't know what's happening with that. Obviously, you're still sitting pretty in terms of having the 9th position in the draft. You can get a good offensive tackle there, but I don't know. You're running out of chances to answer these questions. You came into this offseason and say, how many questions can we answer? Can we answer our wide receiver question? Cool. We got our dynamic wide receiver. Can we answer our defensive line question? Can we answer our offensive line questions? A lot of questions still remain at both of those spots. And so, and you're running out of bullets to use on them.
And it's not just headliners, right? It's the depth. And I tell people this, do this exercise at some point this weekend. Like just print out the Bears roster and write your 2 deep depth chart, and then look at the second line at every one of those positions. And you're going to look at it and you're going to go, oh, good Lord, there is no quality depth on this roster. And so you still have to find that. Look, they're going to have 10 draft picks, maybe 12 by the time the draft weekend's all over. We'll see where they go in that regard. And you're going to add pieces there, but you can't count on hitting 500 in the draft. Like we just saw, the last member of the 2019 draft class go out the window when David Montgomery went to Detroit. And so like this idea that you're going to hit all of these base hits and doubles and triples in the draft, it's far-fetched. You and I talked last week about the Orlando Brown piece, and it's like, okay, I get it. He's going to cost a lot, but this is actually the one time where you have the flexibility to overpay a little bit, and you're not in a window where, like if you structure the deal in a certain way, you're not going to,
handicap yourself by it
desperately. So maybe they still get something done. I don't know. We'll see where that goes. But it was like, okay, if they don't get Orlando Brown, then you've still got McGlinchey and Caleb McGarry and Juwan Taylor. And well, guess what? They're all on different teams.
Gone.
and that's dried up. The defensive tackle, Draymond Jones, gone. Javon Hargrave, gone. Like, Sheldon Rankins, gone. Dalvin Tomlinson, gone. Like, all these things that you thought you were going to get.
All these guys,
Right. You're going to get one bite at it, and you've got no bites at it. And so I don't know. I'll be fascinated. Ryan's going to talk to us on Thursday morning at Hallis Hall. I think there's a little bit of grilling that needs to be done in addition to the learning about the new additions, because there's a lot that hasn't been done yet. And I think he's got to justify a little bit what the philosophy and the vision is.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's done a bad job so far. I think he's brought in some pieces that are going to help this team, and I think that they probably fit his long-term vision. But in terms of answering those questions for the 2023 Bears, he hasn't answered enough just yet, and it's going to take a huge draft pick and some steals in that second wave of free agency if he's going to field the type of team that he wants to field for this year.
Right. Couple more things before we get out of here. I wanted to ask you, as somebody that's been inside the building, how the reality, when sometimes we talk about things for months and then they become reality and they hit a different way. When you saw that David Montgomery was going to become a Lion, I'm just wondering what your human emotion was in that moment when you see it's official.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of respect that everybody has for David Montgomery, just the type of player he is, type of person he is, willing to talk to us more often than not. His teammates love him, but I didn't expect him to come back. I just didn't really expect it. So I've been kind of prepared for that to happen. And somewhere at some point last year, I said he's probably going to end up being a Detroit Lion. And I just felt that way because they just players like that. David Montgomery is really, really underrated, right? But the people who don't underrate him are the people who know him best. In that division, everybody understands how dynamic, how good of a running back that he is. And so you look at the Detroit Lions, like I could see him ending up there. And I'll find a clip from where I said that at. But I wasn't surprised by it. I expected him to be gone. And it's unfortunate. Like I said, I got a ton of respect for David Montgomery. Really liked him as a player. The little bit I knew of him as a person, I really liked him as a person. But I wasn't surprised by it, so it didn't really catch me off guard. It was like, dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
I'm with you on that. And I've always told people, like, David's value went beyond the production and what you're going to see on a Pro Football Reference page, right? Like, it was just a heartbeat inside that locker room in terms of the way he worked every day and the way he rubbed off on guys around him. And it's just the cruel nature of the position in this league where they're just replaceable, right? Like Jeremy Langford was here until Jordan Howard was here, and Jordan Howard was here until David Montgomery was here, and now David Montgomery was here until the next guy was here, Khalil Herbert or whoever else they draft. And it's just what it is. It's sometimes really it's tough sometimes to see a guy who does everything the right way. Gives you everything that they promised he would give you when they drafted him, and then you just say, "Okay, head on, young man," and we'll wish you luck up the road.
There was such an attachment to him. He was the first player picked in that draft. The Bears didn't have a pick before David Montgomery in the third round, and so he was the first player picked. So he was like our pick that year, and then he comes in, and like you said, he does everything right. He's been very intentional about improving any area of deficiency that he saw in his game. He wanted to get a little faster. He worked on his speed. He said I had to learn how to run. As an NFL running back, I had to learn how to run. And then you saw that explosiveness on the field the following season. He wanted to work on his pass catching out of the backfield. He became a lot better at that as well. And so every time he wanted to work on something, he was willing to put the work in, and you saw the production on the field. And so you don't like to see players like that go. And especially in Chicago, we just have, this affection and affinity for our running backs anyway. And so if you're good there, we're gonna want you to be there. We expect you to be, Gale Sayers, Walter Payton, Matt Forte. And if we like you that way, we just want you to stay around. And so I understand the feelings of sadness about his departure, and we'll get to see him a couple times a year. And my bet is he'll put up some pretty decent games.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what Jamal Williams did there last year. He'll fill into that role pretty nicely and work into an offense that's got a lot of firepower. Last thing I'm going to ask you, because Georgia's Pro Day was today, and Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles were among the Bears contingent in Georgia to watch a handful of highly touted Bulldogs draft prospects, but certainly Jalen Carter being tops on that list. And as this saga continues to unfold, we still have 7 weeks until the first round of the draft. You see some footage from that pro day. You hear the reports of him checking in overweight. You look at a kid who's had a very tumultuous month, and you go, my goodness, like, what does this do for a team's evaluation of what they should invest in him? I'm just curious your initial thoughts, understanding that a lot's going to happen between now and draft night.
A lot of time left, but just watching him out there on that field, did you see him go through the bags? Like, it was bad. Like he couldn't cut through them. He couldn't get around it. The bin wasn't there. And to be overweight, listen, he's had a lot going on in this last month. I don't know if he understands how bad he's costing himself right now. And I think it may ultimately work out for the Bears if they're already convinced about the player that he is, and they think, hey, this is just a bad month for him and he'll get back in shape, and we're convinced in his work ethic, and they talk to him in his interviews and he comes in for his 30 visit or whatever. If they're convinced, it could work out for them, right? It could be Ryan Poles like, hey, go have a steak and some peanut butter, kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it could be Ryan Poles letting that board just fall down to him, because, I mean, there were points earlier in the draft process where you talk about Jalen Carter being, top 3 pick. And so now to have the possibility that maybe he's there for you at 9, or for his sake, maybe he falls even further than that, but he's costing himself a whole lot of money. It may ultimately work out for the Bears, but it may be a situation where they say, no, this is just too big of a risk for what we have to get out of this particular draft. We're going to go ahead and scratch them off our board, and then maybe they then turn their attention to the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think they need a sure thing there. And after he's done having that steak and the peanut butter, I think they need to show him Matt Eberflus's hits principle and what he asks for. Because you want to talk about loafs, that footage from the pro day was like, oh my God, Matt would be talking about that for 3 weeks inside the media room at Hallis Hall if that showed up on a practice tape or a game tape for the Bears.
What if this thing gets so bad for him, right? and he continues to put on weight, and he doesn't show himself well at his 30 visits or whatever. And the Bears go offensive tackle at 9, and then he's still sitting there, 23, 24, 25, 26. Can they find a way to get back up into the first round and get him at the end?
He ain't getting to 26. If he gets there, then I say you take all your second round capital and you come flying up and you make that happen and you figure it out from there and you take that dice roll. But it'll be fascinating. Like I say, we got 7 more weeks for things to kind of evolve. And I never put too much stock in a pro day because I remember Zach Wilson making people's jaws drop at a pro day.
Apparently he's going to give Aaron Rodgers hell every day out there.
We'll see what happens. Herb Howard, thanks for joining us. Always a great conversation.
Always fun, Dan. Appreciate you.